The latest Snow White remake has stirred up a firestorm, with Rachel Zegler's reimagined version facing fierce backlash and Brett Cooper's traditional portrayal gaining enthusiastic support. Fans are divided, and the internet is buzzing as Zegler's modernized interpretation clashes with Cooper's approach in Snow White and the Evil Queen, set to premiere on the Daily Wire's streaming service, Bentkey. The two radically different takes have become the centerpiece of what fans see as a battle over classic versus contemporary storytelling. It's a rare moment when a single film, especially one so rooted in fairy tale tradition, takes on such significance, symbolizing the larger cultural divide in Hollywood's approach to remakes and audience expectations. Rachel Zegler's Snow White embraces a bold, modern twist, abandoning the original fairy tale romance and replacing it with a story of self-reliance and empowerment. In this version, Snow White isn't looking for a prince. She's on a quest to find herself, to lead, and to fulfill her potential. Inspired by the words of her father, she's a strong, independent woman, shedding the damsel in distress trope that defined her in the 1937 Disney classic. While some appreciate the effort to add depth to a beloved character, longtime fans feel that these changes betrayed the story they've cherished for decades. Snow White's romantic storyline, filled with hope and magic, was never about her finding independence, but about discovering a kind of love and innocence that many view as the heart of the story. Zegler's comments about the original film have only intensified the backlash. She openly criticized the 1937 Snow White for its outdated portrayal of romance, and went so far as to label Prince Charming as a creepy stalker. These statements haven't just ruffled feathers, they've struck a nerve with Disney fans who feel that Zegler's view is a harsh dismissal of the film's nostalgic value. The prince's role, after all, was a staple of Disney's early fairy tale films, embodying a classic notion of true love. Zegler's comments have sparked a debate over whether beloved stories should remain untouched or be reinterpreted for modern audiences. For many fans, her approach feels like a drastic departure, not only from the story they love, but from the timeless values that define it. Meanwhile, Brett Cooper's casting as Snow White in Snow White and the Evil Queen has garnered massive support, especially among fans who feel Hollywood's modern remakes often veer too far from the source material. Known for her outspoken, conservative views, Cooper has expressed a desire to keep the character's traditional elements intact. Her Snow White is a throwback to the values of romance, innocence, and happy endings. In contrast to Zegler's independent, leader-focused Snow White, Cooper's version celebrates the fairy tale's essence, with Snow White remaining true to the ideals of love and hope that many fans grew up with. It's a choice that speaks to those tired of reimagined fairy tales that seem designed to fit contemporary political trends. Cooper's approach, in fact, is a significant cultural statement. By keeping the romance and Prince Charming's role, Cooper's version has been praised as a defense of the classic story, an embrace of the innocence and escapism that fans feel Hollywood has forgotten. The Daily Wire, in casting Cooper, isn't just creating another movie. They're openly challenging Disney's direction. The film is positioned as a counter to Hollywood's current trend, celebrating the original tale's simplicity and avoiding the social themes that have defined recent remakes. For fans who cherish the classic narrative, Cooper's casting is seen as a victory for traditional storytelling, untouched by what they see as unnecessary changes. On social media, the divide is clear. Fans backing Cooper express relief at a return to fairy tale roots, using hashtags like #NotMeSnowWhite to voice their disapproval of Zegler's interpretation. Memes and posts highlight the nostalgia Cooper's version evokes, with some claiming that the Daily Wire's Snow White will be the real Snow White. Critics of Zegler's interpretation feel that Disney's modernized approach undermines the fairy tale charm that made the original film so enchanting. Zegler's detractors see her version as more of a departure than an adaptation, lamenting the loss of elements they hold dear, particularly the idea of love and romance, which they view as core to the story's magic. Adding fuel to the fire, Zegler has been vocal in her interviews, describing the original film as outdated and speaking dismissively of the traditional romantic storyline. To her, The original Snow White's desire for true love is old-fashioned, a sentiment she has publicly criticized. In her view, Snow White should be ambitious, self-reliant, and focused on goals that don't involve a prince. For those who cherish the classic Snow White story, Zegler's statements come across as disdainful of the very things that made the film iconic. The divide is clear. Zegler's Snow White wants independence over romance, while Cooper's Snow White celebrates the timeless fairy tale ending that fans have cherished for generations. Meanwhile, Cooper's take is resonating with those who feel Hollywood's emphasis on updating old narratives has gone too far. The Daily Wire's approach is seen as a defense of classic stories, arguing that fairy tales don't need constant reimagining to stay relevant. The choice to cast Cooper as a traditional Snow White isn't just about appealing to nostalgia. It's a deliberate stand for maintaining the innocence and magic of childhood classics. For her supporters, Cooper represents an escape from the relentless push for modernity in film. Instead of transforming the character into a modern woman, she embodies the sweetness and simplicity that fans say Disney has abandoned. In a Hollywood climate increasingly focused on social messages, the debate over Snow White has become symbolic of a larger cultural conversation. Cooper's portrayal reflects a yearning for stories that allow viewers to escape and find comfort in the familiar. By honoring the original story, her version of Snow White is a return to the type of fairy tale that doesn't need a twist to be meaningful. Supporters argue that not every narrative requires a reinvention. Sometimes, the classic elements are what make it timeless. Disney, on the other hand, sees the remake as an opportunity to address what it perceives as outdated aspects of the story. In casting Zegler and focusing on female empowerment, Disney aims to reframe Snow White for a contemporary audience, portraying her as a strong, independent character rather than someone waiting for rescue. This choice reflects a broader trend in Hollywood, where studios feel the need to align with current cultural values, often at the expense of traditional narratives. For fans, this has created a noticeable tension. The stories they grew up with are being altered, and in many cases, they feel these changes are unwarranted. The response to Zegler's take has been vocal, with both sides passionately defending their views. Those who support her argue that Snow White, like all stories, should evolve, reflecting values that resonate with younger generations. To them, Zegler's Snow White is a progressive heroine, one who doesn't depend on a prince and who has ambitions beyond the fairy tale ending. However, fans of Cooper's interpretation see her as a necessary return to the simplicity of original storytelling. They argue that Disney has lost touch with what audiences really want, a Snow White that honors the past and doesn't attempt to replace it with political messages. Even within Disney, it's clear that tensions are high. Behind the scenes, actors and directors have reportedly clashed over how to market Snow White, particularly when it comes to Zegler's interpretation. Some executives reportedly pushed for a more conservative approach to marketing, hoping to avoid alienating traditional fans. The debate within Disney mirrors the broader public discussion as the studio wrestles with how to present the film in a way that appeals to both progressives and traditionalists. The Snow White controversy reflects the deeper challenge Hollywood faces as it tries to balance progress with nostalgia. As the debate continues, it's clear that audiences are divided over what they want from their favorite stories. For fans of traditional storytelling, Cooper's portrayal is a glimmer of hope, a reminder that there is still room in Hollywood for stories that stay true to their origins. Meanwhile, supporters of Zegler's take believe that fairy tales must adapt to remain relevant, arguing that a modern Snow White speaks more directly to today's young women. Ultimately, this Snow White remake has sparked a significant cultural debate, one that extends far beyond a single movie. It's a question of what storytelling means in today's world and whether the classics should be reimagined or preserved as they were originally intended. The divide is so pronounced that fans aren't merely choosing a favorite. They are engaging in a larger conversation about tradition, progress, and the future of film. In the end, whether audiences prefer Cooper's faithful adaptation or Zegler's modernized take, this Snow White debate is a testament to the power of storytelling. It's about more than just a movie. It's about who gets to decide what makes a story worth telling and whether those decisions should rest with the filmmakers or the fans who cherish these tales. As the release dates draw closer, all eyes will be on these two versions of Snow White to see which one resonates most with viewers. For now, both sides of the debate remain passionate, and the question persists. Should Snow White be reimagined for a modern audience, or should it stay true to its roots? Fans and critics alike are eager to see how this latest chapter in the Snow White saga will unfold, and it's clear that the story, no matter which version you prefer, is far from over.